This is News Desk. You're welcome. Leader of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission in Ghana, Al-Haji Maulvi Muhammad bin Salih, is calling for the disbandment of all political groupings in the country's educational institutions and communities. Speaking at the 83rd Annual National Convention of the Ahmadiyya Mission at Pomaze in the Central Region, Maulvi bin Salih said such groups are unconstitutional and their continuous existence breeds indiscipline in the country's politics. Let's take a listen to that.
Three of the country's major political parties, the NDC, NPP and CPP, all have political wings in most of the tertiary institutions in the country. The NDC, for instance, has the Tertiary Education and Institutional Network TEIN, whilst the main opposition NPP has the Tertiary Students' Confederacy TESCON. There's also the Tertiary Students' Charter of the Convention People's Party, TESCHAT. These groups, apart from bringing young members of the party together, also serve as a grooming ground for those looking forward to taking up mainstream political positions. But leader of the Ahmadiyya Mission says having young persons at these levels under steady political gurus is a recipe for indiscipline. He has reason to believe these groupings do not inure to the benefit of society and wants them dissolved.
We must, as a necessity, dissolve and bring to halt the activities of these organized and heavily sponsored and partisanly, politically oriented youth wings or like-minded student bodies from our senior high school, from our colleges, and from our university campuses. The TEIN, Tertiary Education and Institutional Network of the National Democratic Congress, the TESCON, Tertiary Students' Confederation of the New Patriotic Party, as well as the TESCHAT, Tertiary Students' Charter of the Convention People's Party, must not be allowed to continue.
He also believes some of these groupings he described as mercenaries for the parties must not be allowed to exist.
In like manner, we need to do away with politically motivated mercenary groupings. Politically motivated mercenary groupings like the Azoka boys and the Bamba boys. We need to learn lessons from historical antecedents because we cannot tell what finally they are capable of becoming in the future. Mr. Chairman, history abounds in examples where such groups were allowed to grow in strength and stature until their power grew beyond control and they turned their venom on the very masters who nurtured them.
The NDC's General Secretary Johnson Asedun Ketia, who was delivering his solidarity message, had this to say.
I have listened to the very wonderful speech of the Amir, and I find it very, very thought-provoking. And we will take his advice seriously. We will be meeting with our colleagues from other political parties, and the section that deals with the parties, we will consider it and see how we can implement the aspects that deals with our own conduct.
Tiandopia, Joy News, Pomaze, Central Region.
Let's talk about this over the next few minutes. I have over the telephone line two gentlemen, Dr. Alidu Seidu, who's with the University of Ghana Political Science Department, and David Agbe, who is Executive Director for the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. You're welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you so much.
Dr. Seidu, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this call?
Yeah, we can look at it from two perspectives. First, I agree with the Amir when he says that greed and indiscipline are some of the causes of the use of foul and intemperate languages in our political discourse, and also the breeding grounds for indiscipline. I also agree when he says that we should disband, in his own with mercenary organizations or associations like the Azoka boys and the Bamba boys. To some extent, I agree with that. But I don't agree with him extending that call for dissolution to organizations like TESCON, TAIN, and all the student campus-based political institutions or organizations.
Why not?
Yeah, these are the reasons. One, and the crucial function of every political party, besides winning power, is political socialization and the building up of political culture in the young and upcoming leadership. Political parties in most parts of the developing countries have far neglected this particular responsibility, largely because of lack of funds and also lack of time to mobilize the youth and then imbibe into them the political philosophy, ideology, and socialization of the core values of the party. So these particular campus-based political institutions has become the platform for political socialization for most of the major political parties in this country. Second, these political institutions within campus, the student-led ones, also serve as a platform and a nurturing ground for the hunting and building of political talent in the youth that will later uptake political mentorship and mantle for the country. They also serve as a ground for pre-testing and piloting the leadership skills and ability of the people who will govern this country in the future. So I believe that this particular institute, it also says, me, for example, as a political science lecturer, I think it is a source of experimentation for most of the concepts we teach here: democracy, elections, political participation, power, authority, etc. But students are able to see this even in the day-to-day administration of their life on campus. Elections, those particular institutions are democratic in nature. And man is by nature a political animal. Even the elections of XRC leaders, JCR president, and all these things are political, and they have political meaning. And we cannot associate politics from those practices from what happens at TAIN and TESCON. Then we should just disband all political institutions, student institutions on campuses like the XRC, the JCR, because they are all political.
We're going to come to that in a bit, but just before we do so, let David Agbe into the conversation now. David.
Yes, Kavani.
What are your thoughts on this call?
In fact, I shared the same views expressed by my friend, Dr. Ali Dusetu, that I disagree with the submission made by the Ahmadiyya Amin that we should bound TESCON and other TAIN and other political, activities on university campus. For me, if it happens like that, then it suggests that they want to tell Ghanaians that we shouldn't even learn political science at the university level. Because it is the same students. If you attain the age of 18 years or below, you should be able to know what is happening in your country, how decisions are being taken by our leaders, how formulations of policies are being done, and how societies are being governed. You should be able to know all those things so that you will be able to say that this is what needs to be done at a particular point in time. But I only agree with him that people normally use intemperate language, which what we want to emphasize on or we want to campaign on this year. We are only working on a program that we call Improving Political Communication and Effective Political Communication in the country. We've realized that both all the political parties are not communicating effectively in the country, and it has a certain security implication that if they do not communicate effectively and they communicate anyhow, it has a certain effect on the country. So on that score, we agree with him. But to ban political associations in all the universities is something that it is not practicable at all.
But David, David, let's talk about the fact that you say that it's a source of learning for these young students when it comes to politics. Now, isn't the student politics already practiced in the school doing that? Isn't the student political environment already teaching them that?
For me, mean, it's good for every human being to learn about politics. Politics is about knowing what happens within your country, and politics, even it is in the Bible.
But do they need these youth wings in the school to be able to learn that?
We need it, strongly. I mean, we can, cite an examples of Haruna Idrisu as a NUC's president, all the way he's now a minister.
But you do agree, and Dr. Saidu, I'm going to rope you in here right after that, because that was a point you also made. You do agree that NUC's is not politically connected to any national political party like TESCON or TAIN is to the two major political parties in the country?
It is politically connected.
How?
NUCS represents student interest. And what will happen is that we are in a democracy where the Constitution allows for formation association of every individual to a specific group that seeks to enhance their rights and welfare. NUCS is for the rights and interests of students in the country, just as the Ghana Medical Association or the Ghana Bar Association or whatever you can think of. The Constitution allows the formation of these institutions to enhance participatory democracy.
But my point is, if your call has been, look, if we are going to get rid of the TESCONs, the TAINs, then we might as well get rid of the SRCs and the JCRs. Now, my point is, the SRC, the JCR, NUCS, like we have mentioned, are not directly politically connected to any major political or any political party at all in the country. And so we may not see them in the same light.
What they do is that they serve an interest of the section of the public. And that is what political parties also do. They serve an interest of the sections of the public, and they want to capture power. The difference between political parties and all those institutions that you have mentioned is that unlike NUCS, the XRC and etc., they seek to influence public policy through different mechanisms. Political parties seek to influence public policy by capturing political power and using that authority acquired to influence public policy, steer the course of development, and bring benefits to their members. NUCS and all those things lobby the political processes to get benefits for their members. So they all have the same interest, but the only thing that they have different goals. Whilst one seeks to capture political power and use that power and authority to influence the lives of the people, others don't want to contest. The others you have mentioned will never seek political power to win elections, but they try to influence the public policy-making processes. That is those who control political power to get benefits for their members. So it's the same purpose and the same mission. It's just that they all have different strategies. And they all represent diverse interests of the general public. And they are all for public good.
I see. Now, David.
I agree with Dr. Alidu. And I said that NUCS and other bodies in the university, they all represent a certain interest. And they are all political entities. And that is why when they want to appoint a NUCS president or a SRC president, all the political parties are directly involved. And they sponsor those group of people who are interested to contest for those positions. So they are a political entity, and we need to be able to nurture those people. We need to be able to train them so that they become a political leaders. And so politics is embedded in every human being, and we should be able to appreciate that. That politics is about humanity, and politics is about, everything that happens
progress
in
now.
In your country.
Let's progress now. Now, for the Ahmadiyya Muslim leader, these groups have only ended up incensing what he said is the level of insults by political agents, especially on radio. Now, here's my question. Dr. Saidu, I hope you address it first. What sort of nurturing do these young people receive when they join these groups?
Is it directed to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mentioned in my first submission that political parties have a crucial role in political socialization. It's just the way we bring up our kids at home. The family or the parents have the role of socialization and nurturing processes for their kids. You train them the way you want them to live. That is the same thing that these institutions say. And I have mentioned that in the developed countries, political parties have established schools where their members are brought up in this particular training. The philosophy and the ideology of those particular political parties are imbibed in the youth. who will take up leadership mantle so that they don't find themselves wanting. They know the core value, the history, and the ideology of the party, and they are able to serve in the interest of the party. But in this part of our world, we neglect those roles because of several reasons. Maybe because of lack of resources and several other reasons I don't know, time will not allow me to mention. But the fact is that if students are able to do this, they go through a series of training, election processes, seminars, lectures, and all those things. Mentorship. Most of them serve as polling agents. They work in collaborative with the headquarters of their parties in the drafting of manifestos and in doing several other things. So when you start at that particular tender age of your political life, you don't only get the theoretical knowledge of what it means to be a leader and the necessary ingredients of a leader, but you also get the practical advantage of working hand in hand with the party and knowing and understanding.
But Dr. Saidu, that is the ideal situation. Practically, what have these young people turned into?
Practically, they do. Practically, TESCON and TEEN ask them, most of them have volunteered their students to help. The national, ask the political party, the national headquarters, they have been serving as interns, they have monitored elections, they have served as polling agents, they have participated in research work for those particular political parties. They are enlisted. When they have these programs, they take a sizable number from the leadership of various parties to come and then participate. They are trained. It's not just that they do this on the campus, but they also liaise with their national party headquarters, and they are involved a lot in a lot of party programs. That is why they understand more of the nuances of the party operations and are able to take up leadership mantle when it calls on them. It is very significant.
Very well. David?
Yes.
What would you say has been the kind of training these young people have got by joining those groups?
Politics starts from home, and that is why at times you see that MPP people will train their kids that this is our party philosophy. They believe in capitalism. NDC people will also say that no, we believe in social democracy. That suggests that everything must be fair, every human being should be counted, every interest needs to be served, and all that. So politics actually start from home. So you go to university for you to get the theoretical aspect and get a certain level of appreciating how decisions are being taken in the society. So it is the responsibility of the universities to also train students to be able to appreciate how leaders take decisions within controlling a certain resources within your country. So if you do not have that practical experience of knowing how decisions are being taken as far as how you can govern your country, then we might be losing sight of our responsibilities in our society. So we believe that our lecturers also need to be able to mentor our students very well in various campuses. I do believe that you might have been involved in university politics before, but I think that all of us need to be able to learn very fast so that we can all contribute.
But gentlemen, shouldn't the idea first and foremost be to want to serve the nation and not necessarily gain some sort of training you hope would in the future make you a member of parliament or a minister or a deputy minister? Shouldn't the idea first and foremost be wanting to serve? And is that what these people are being taught?
You see,
right, Dr. Saidu, go ahead.
Okay. If you look at the arrangement, not the constitution, but the socio-political dynamics of this country, it makes it very difficult for you to serve the country if you don't belong to a party. You can't win power as an independent candidate, given the political dynamics of this country. So that one already suggests that to be able to serve your country, you must be a member of a political party. That is the first thing. So if this default arrangement favors political parties, then it behoves that to be able to serve in the position that is capable of enhancing the lives of the country, you must belong to a political party. And not just that, a political party that is capable of winning political power. So if you have this, so that is why people have been talking about the concept of the winner takes all and making sure that we have an all-inclusive government that taps the experience and expertise of even people who are not political in nature, because it helps a lot. But by default, our design of political activities and discourse in this country favors you assigning yourself to a political party that is capable of winning political power before your talent.
Dr. Saidu, I'm having terrible feedback from you, and so we're going to try and fix that problem. But I'll have David speak to us while we do that. Right, David? So what's your take on that?
Well, one of the things that we are not doing in this country very well, that we do not have a very strong cooperation with the university lecturers, especially those who teach political science and the political parties itself. We do not have a strong collaboration with them at all. So it looks as if the political parties are doing their own thing. And when the students also go to their classrooms, the lecturers are also doing a different thing. They should be able to have a collaborative effort where, students can even go to the political party and even learn what is the ideology of the party. MPP, for instance, what is their ideology? They believe in capitalism. What is capitalism? When you go to NDC, social democracy, what is social democracy is all about? It looks as if they only teach them, the theoretical things without getting them to be involved in the practical arena. Even political party, management, how do they even do it? And political parties do not even have records of their political members. And so there are lots of things that need to be, to be done in this country so that the political parties will be more attractive. The lecturers too can also impact on their students. And we are not seeing those kind of collaboration. And
let's look on the other side. Let's look on the other side, but I'm going to try if Dr. Saidu is back over the telephone. Dr. Saidu? Right, he's not back. So, David, we can go on. How about the student who goes to school and dedicates his or her entire educational period at that level to some national political party that has a youth wing in his or her school? Is that okay?
Hello, Commander, please, could you take your question again?
I'm concerned about the student who goes to school and dedicates his or her entire educational period to some national political party that has a youth wing in the school, and then school becomes second best in terms of the list of priorities. Is that okay?
My line is a bit, rough now. I couldn't hear the question very well.
I think we're going to try and fix that, but let me talk to Dr. Saidu now. Dr. Saidu, welcome back. Now, I was asking David, how about the student who ends up dedicating his or her entire life to political party activity, for instance, within TAIN or TESCON, and then school becomes a second priority?
Yeah, it happens. You see, in life, especially given the political party that you join, if there are already capable, competent, older hands within that particular party, then it stands to reason that you have to wait and bid for your time. But that doesn't mean that the training that you have received as being a member of TESCON or TAIN will go to waste. You can use that training in different capacities and in different ways, besides serving your party or waiting for the time that your party will call you to come and serve. So I think there are even people who have never been members of TAIN or TESCON, or who have never in one way or the other gone to school, but they have campaigned for political parties and they have been rewarded when those political parties win power. So when we narrowly reduce, or when we reductively argue that the use of interpret and foul language in the political discourse is largely as a result of those student-based political institutions in campus, that is erroneous to start with, because we know people who have used foul and intemperate language. We know people who have been greedy and selfish, who have never been members of this institution.
Does it not become a problem if we continue to have a society where, unless you have been nurtured by a particular political party, you cannot serve the public or the greater good?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And that is what we have all been talking about every day. If you look at the developed countries, for example, in the United States of America and other developed countries, they pick people with expertise and talent in the area that they want them to serve, to become a minister or a deputy minister. So it suggests that before you are already, your resources are, your expertise can be tapped by virtue of the fact that you are a known expert in the area of where you are serving, and not necessarily because you are a member of the party that has won power. And that is why in most cases you get continuity, where a Republican Party will come to power and still maintain elements of the Democratic Party to serve the state. Because under that circumstances, they put the collective interest of the people and the state first, and not the interest of the party, even though the party still play crucial responsibilities in the political discourse.
But by what you have just said, isn't that good reason enough to want to disband these youth wings in our political institutions, especially as a way of trying to deal with a situation where if you want to serve the nation, you'd have to be a card-bearing member of some political party most of the time?
Yeah, because we live in different environments and we practice different political systems altogether. Because I've made reference to the United States of America, where in that particular state, they practice strictly separation of powers, where when you are a member of the legislature, you cannot at the same time serve as a member of the executive. But in this part of our world, we don't do that. Our constitution, the framers of our constitution frame it in a very different way. So the constitutional stipulation, as well as our political culture and attitude as people, have made all these things very difficult to practice. And I also mentioned that in those particular parts of the world, their political parties are able to train. They have institutions and schools that train young people within the party to understand the tenets of the party and to help them govern and acquire leadership skills. We have that deficit in this part of the world. And that is why I think that these particular institutions, student-based institutions, are making up for the deficit in this particular political socialization process. And that is very necessary.
I see.
So we have different, environmental setup, different laws, different political practices. And that changes everything altogether.
Now, David is back over the telephone line. David.
Yes. In United States, for instance, as Dr. Ali Dusedu, cited, they also have a certain level of challenge. If you monitor what has happened in Obama's administration, his first and second, even most of the appointments that he did, especially the ambassadors, most of them were being, they contributed to financing Obama's campaign. Almost about 38% of the ambassadors who were appointed were those people who contributed heavily. I do believe that most of them, if you do not contribute to the political party, if you do not have a political card, it's very difficult for you to get an appointment. And that is why our constitution, for instance, is good enough that academicians could be involved in politics. If you are not a party member, you could also be appointed. If you are a party member, you could also be appointed. So we need to nurture our democracy.
Very well. Now we have to go already. Until
a good balance.
We have to go already. So I'm going to ask the final question. If these youth wings of these national political parties are all that good, over the years, how did the Ghanaian political scenery become better because they existed? Dr. Saidu.
Sorry, can you take the question again?
I'm asking that if these groups are indeed as good as we are claiming them to be, how have they bettered the Ghanaian political environment just because of the fact that some people were going through the mill via these groups?
Yeah, most of them are, I'm not saying all of them are good and have received good training, but majority of them are. But the fact is that even if you are a good leader and you don't have the requisite institutional strength or capacity, and also what the strong institutions want, and then working within a good team, and then the necessary resources, that's financial resources, it becomes very difficult for you to govern. So we have always been saying that majority of the challenges we face as a continent or as countries specifically has to do with leadership. It's not just that we have bad leaders, but sometimes we ignore the institutional support that helps leaders to govern. If you are a good leader and you don't have those good institutions financial capital, and a lot of other factors, given the fact that we also live within an umbrella of nations, and our actions affect each other, it becomes very difficult, even if
right. Now, David, your take on this?
Yes, I think that the issue of leadership is one of the critical things that if you are interested in politics, you need to be able to train yourself very well so that you become a good leader, because we have a serious leadership deficit in this country. And so our leaders are not taking good decisions that will better the living standard of every, indigent. And so we need to also go back to the grassroots and teach, good moral standards and ethical standards.
Right.
And certain values need to be implanted into our citizenry. So that
David, I'm afraid we'd have to end the conversation here. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. David Agbe is Executive Director for the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. Dr. Alidu Seidu is a political scientist. And, well, that's it for our conversation on whether or not, as proposed by leader of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, Dr. Mulvi, if we should disband the various youth wing of political parties in various educational levels, starting from the senior high school. So that's the conversation. I'd love to know what you think, especially if you're a member of any of these groups. You can share your thoughts with me on our social media platforms. Join us on TV, on Facebook, and on Twitter. I will be absolutely thrilled to share your thoughts with the rest of us here. So when I come back, here's what we'll discuss. Why are you not interested in the district level elections? Or why are you also not interested to stand to be voted to become an assembly member or man or woman in your neighborhood? We'll talk about that when I come back. Don't go away.